Our guest today first forayed into the styling industry in 2004 when she launched Be Blunt with her brother. It was the first of its kind destination hairstyling salon and academy chain. She's been responsible for some of the most iconic hairdos in the Hindi film industry. Be it the trend-setting looks in Dil Chahta Hai, the offbeat charm in Laksh, to the rage that were Reis, Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, Dil Dhadakne Do. I could go on and on and on. She's an entrepreneur, a multiple award winner from Elle India, DuPont, and Vogue. Most importantly, a wonderful human being. It is an absolute pleasure to have on the podcast none other than Adhuna. Hey, Adhuna, how are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. That was a
Hey,
wonderful
welcome.
introduction. I can't take credit for all of that. It's me and my team, but thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure having you on board, Aduna. Aduna, let me quickly start off with the present times. The world has been reopening now, but during COVID, the last couple of years have been quite tricky for all of us. Salons were probably the service that everyone missed most during the lockdown. We had to do our
Maybe
own
certain
haircuts.
people did not.
It must have been a very taxing time for you and your team as well across the country. How did you all cope up with it? And since the things have started opening up, has it been a little overwhelming?
So it has been challenging. I think it's been challenging for everyone. The service industry specifically has felt the pinch, I think, for perhaps a little bit longer than others, because of the social nature of our work. It's people have taken a longer time to be brave enough to come into the salons. But now it is looking up. Life is looking up, the business is looking up, and people, I think, are feeling a bit more positive. We have a little bit more knowledge about the virus now than we did 2 years ago, so I think that knowledge is empowering to everybody.
Absolutely, absolutely. Aduna, you've been fascinated with the hairstyling industry since a very early age. You even won the National Junior Hairstyling Championship when you were just 17 years old in the UK. What has been the reason for your fascination with this not such a regular industry?
So, firstly, you've really done your homework. I don't know how you found that out, but in the early days, I was literally 14 years old and very my mom was always very particular about her hair. So she's the person who introduced me to salon life. And
Hmm.
she still today is very, very particular about her hair. And I would go along with her to the salon. She introduced me to the people who worked there. I was fascinated by it. This was in the UK, and there were many
Yeah.
weird and wonderful characters in the salon that I first worked in, who I think have really shaped, my view on life. To be very honest, to be introduced to these at such an early age with, the support of my mom was amazing because I was 14 years old. I used to go to the salon and work on weekends and school holidays. And I just became obsessed with it. I became obsessed
Hmm.
with it. I started entering competitions at the age of 17. By the time I was 21, I'd traveled the whole country and done
Right.
competitions. I mean, people who are not in our industry are not really aware that there is this whole competition arena,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and it really is a different kind of hairdressing to what you see in your salons when you visit the
Right.
salon. It instills discipline in certain areas of hairdressing, which you wouldn't even believe were there if you were not part of the industry. It's a
Hmm.
fascinating. It's been a fascinating part of my training. I believe that entering competitions and putting yourself out there as a young stylist really helps to evolve your technique, evolve your personal sense of style, you know. So it was a great, I think, one of the biggest sort of influences in how I see hair.
And we can see that in your personality these days as well. So you've been constantly evolving as far as your own work is concerned. You've been coming out with products, you've been coming out with associations with FMCG companies, and a lot more. So does that stem to that spirit of ever evolving nature that you just spoke about?
Oh, yes. I mean, our association with Godrej GCPL has been a fabulous one. We've managed to launch our own line of products, and that
Right.
has been a dream of myself, my brother, Avan, the rest of my partners at Be Blunt. We came together and did this with Team GCPL, and it's definitely like a dream come true to have your own range of products. As a hairstylist, I was always inspired in the UK by Vidal Sassoon, who is a household name in
Yeah.
across the globe, and in the hairdressing world. And I aspired to be Vidal Sassoon. That was my goal.
That's fascinating. Uh, we were just chatting before we started recording the podcast. You've been an avid reader as well. What impact you say that books have had on shaping you as a personality?
Oh, I mean, I've had some pretty amazing relationships with books. In school, I hated reading because we were, it was about Shakespeare and it was about,
Yep.
all the classics. And now I appreciate why that was sort of thrown in my face. But at the time, I didn't appreciate it.
Right.
And I think I grew a love for reading by watching my mom again. She's been a
Hmm.
huge positive force in our lives. I have a brother and a sister, and she's always given time to all of us and been there for all of us. And she, at a certain stage and phase in her life after having children, went back to work, and she studied really hard to go back to work. And so a huge part of her life became about books. And so I always remember my mom reading. I just always remember her reading. And she was a super fast reader. She used to do books
Yeah.
like this, really fast. And I'd like, oh my God, I can never read that. But over the years, and after having my own children, I've become more and more and more passionate about books. And to have and hold a book in your hand is such a
Yeah.
pleasure and delight.
Yep.
I really appreciate that I've had that as an experience.
Yep. And I'm sure, Preeti, who's with us with Sabia, is doing so much to give that pleasure to so many more people who can't really afford that pleasure to have a book in their hands. Preeti,
Yes.
you would like to say something about it?
Yeah, so since we've started this initiative, we've been interacting with children from across India. And the best part is that once a schoolgirl, her name was Shalu, she came up to me from a village in Rajasthan and she told me that I want to be an astronaut. And I said,
Wow.
okay, how did you come about it? So she's like, the book you gave me, I read the word astronaut, I
Wow.
searched about it, and now I know that I can be an astronaut too. So
How
that's
cool
what
is
books
that?
do.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's Malab, that you just said it in a very small sentence, but it really gave me a little bit of goosebumps that to have such an impact on someone's life that they can dream,
Hmm.
actually.
Yeah, that's what books do. Give your medium to dream.
It's a great first step.
Yeah.
Aduna, you were just talking to us about your young daughters and how you've been more involved after you had daughters. So you mom to two wonderful children. Do you feel that this generation appreciates books, or are they a little too reliant on devices or handheld phones or laptop screens? Do these people now really
Is
appreciate the
reading books
texture?
becoming a lost art?
So I think in with my children, on both sides of their family, they've been very influenced by readers all around them.
Right.
From grandparents on both sides.
Right.
So everybody's been reading books, and
Hmm.
there's 6.5 years between my elder daughter and my younger daughter.
Hmm.
The elder daughter, Shakya, who's 21 now, is a voracious reader. She reads. I mean, she's hungry, like she just is surrounded by books, and she's
Hmm.
privileged to have the access to all the books that she's ever wanted. I mean, we have made it a rule that we would never say no to a book, you know, um, as a way of introducing our children to books. But it was never forced. Um, something I did when Shakya was born, and it became our time, was every single night, from her being in my stomach to being, you know, maybe about 7 to 10 years between, like, she became a very good reader very early. Okay, so she became better than me and got bored of me telling her stories at about the age of 10, and she would like, give me that book, I
Wow.
want to read the book myself, you know. So that I was over for me then. But then I had Akira, who I started the same ritual with.
Hmm.
So bedtime was always associated with reading, and it
Hmm.
became a very, very amazing bonding time between both my children and I
Hmm.
think because there's that 6.5 year age gap, the
Hmm.
the the device angle of the question you asked me became a lot more normalized as my
Hmm.
second daughter was growing up.
Hmm.
Like by the age of 2, she was working the keyboard better than me on the computer, and so it's been mind blowing actually to watch this
Hmm.
development.
Yep.
Um, and you know, like I said, the whole family is obsessed with books. My obsession has grown over the years. I told you that I wasn't so obsessed earlier on, but
Hmm.
after having developed this relationship with my children through the medium of books and reading, it has obviously, I love it. I love it now.
Wow. That is such a nice perspective to hear, because I have realized it for the first time that even parents and children can bond over books. Because the only
Yep.
relationship between my parents and me when I was reading books was whenever I picked up a novel, I used to hear, "Have you done your maths homework?" That you
Oh
are reading a
God.
novel. I'm like, "Oh no, please."
So my children hear that from me too, but I think you know, because as parents you have to also make sure that the schoolwork's getting done, that everything else is getting done. So the
The
books,
maths homework is still not
that's why
complete.
it became a nightly ritual for us. But you know, after a point, my elder daughter Shakya was, I mean, she was just is absorbing books. It was, and going through them frantically. You know, I remember to having read this whole series, which must have had about 50 books in the series of fairies. You know, and each
Okay.
Hmm.
fairy in the book had a story, and then we moved on to Roald Dahl, and then we moved on
Hmm.
to the warrior cats, which she just became, you know, that was the time when I was like, Mom, you can't read these books. Like, I'm reading it. It was just, this is not for you anymore. But I had so much fun. You know, I've actually got some of the books. I've kept some of the books that we really
Hmm.
had special moments with, the books that they made me read over
Hmm.
and over and over again. You know, I knew them by heart. They knew them by heart. There were certain books like um, this one called The Very Hungry
Oh
Caterpillar.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah. This
and
is one of the books
it was
we.
it's going to stay with us for the rest of our lives. We have so many memories around this book. Another fantastic one was my one of my very closest girlfriends, who had her baby before me, shared this book with me, and her daughter is my goddaughter, and so everybody's kind of in the family. This mama laid an egg, and it was how we talked about how babies are made, and how,
Yep.
you know, at a very, very young age, introducing it in a very, very hilarious way. I mean, the sketches are absolutely hysterical. At the end of the book, there's like everybody's had a baby, you know, the whole farm. So it
Wow.
was just Fantastic. Some amazing books. I was
Yes.
wondering, Preeti, if your astronaut story came from this book. Did it come from this one?
No, no.
No?
But yeah,
Okay.
but this is again a
Wow.
good book. And The Hungry Caterpillar is the one which is part of our library development program.
Oh, is it?
So, yes.
Yeah. My mom gave us that book, actually. She gifted that book when the girls were young.
Yeah.
So cool, yeah, very very cool.
Yeah, it's a
So
generational link here. Like it's a link that
yeah,
doesn't break
yeah,
over generations.
So
yeah.
even the
That's good.
books that my elder daughter sort of got so engrossed into, she talked about them so much. There's this series called Warrior Cats,
Mm.
and it really helped my daughter's creative writing. She
Mm.
started writing and exploring writing by developing her own characters inspired by these cats, and she's a cat
Very
lady.
cool.
And that obsession rubbed off on my younger daughter, who also did the same thing, copying or sharing with her elder sister. So a lot of lovely memories around all these books.
True.
Not just memory. So in this day and age when we see mental health issues and anxiety all around, I think books are a fantastic companion to just let your imagination run wild. In the
Absolutely.
in mental development as well, for a young kid who's picked up a book, it is 10x better than just passive downloading of information from a screen where you don't have time to think on your own. You are watching a video, you're watching a snippet, but you're not really thinking or imagining stuff. Books help you
Yeah.
cultivate that imaginative
Yeah.
quotient as well. So that's a
Yeah.
very important thing, especially in this day and age when people are surrounded by devices.
Yeah.
And also, people ask this questions a lot, that whether Kindle will replace physical books. But this just little session that Azuna just gave us,
I
I
hope
think it
not.
just answered that question,
No,
that it
no.
is never going to do that. You can't ever have a Kindle and show it in this way, like such an
It's a
emotional
beauty.
connection.
I mean, the beauty of the Kindle is that you can travel with it, I think, because,
Yeah.
we traveled for years with so many books because
Yeah,
my daughter was
yeah.
just going through them like so rapidly that we had to carry, like, if we went on a holiday, so the books take up half your bag, half your luggage allowance. So
Aduna,
that's the benefit, I think, of the Kindle, but you can't beat the feeling
Yeah.
of turning a
Absolutely.
yep,
page and
yep,
smelling an
yep.
old book.
Yeah. And finding an old note in some old book.
Yeah.
Aduna, coming back to your journey a little, you've been running Be Blunt for over 2 decades now, or almost 2 decades now. Uh,
For two
the
decades,
standard,
actually.
yeah, the standards for themselves, what a behemoth it has become. In fact, I was just mentioning to my wife as well that I'm having the pleasure to talk to Aduna. So she got so excited कि हाँ, I love Vblunt, I love the work they do.
Yeah.
uh,
Oh, sweet.
so that's
Thank
just
you.
a snippet to let you know of how uniquely you touch all the lives across your target audience, or across any age group, so to speak. How difficult has it been to run this behemoth for such a long time and not let the standards drop? I mean, we have seen a number of ventures come and go. They make a bright spark, but it is extremely difficult to sustain the quality that you've been able to maintain for over such a long time. How difficult is it to maintain your standards?
Gosh, that is the hardest thing. I just remember having a conversation with somebody who was starting a new business the other day. And, I think comparatively to maintaining standards, setting up is easy, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
Yep.
it's maintaining it that is the really challenging part, especially if you have a lot of people, if you're relying on, our business relies on the human touch. It is a very personal kind of business. So
Hmm.
I think it's a very people's business, and very the people are the hardest thing to kind of
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
you know even I don't want to say like everybody needs to be the same. It's a philosophy that we've tried to maintain, that everybody should always remain individual, but as a brand there has to be a
Hmm.
brand
Right.
message, a brand story, and that has to be unanimous all the way around. And because everybody comes from different places, different spaces, different walks of life in our industry, which is fabulous. There's no age limit, there's no bar, there's no discrimination. It's a very inclusive kind of industry, and so we have a lot of different mindsets coming together.
Yep.
Trying to steer that ship has been the biggest challenge.
Hmm.
I think at Be Blunt, we are a team who try to lead by example as managers. We try to walk the walk and talk the talk, and hope that everybody sees that and imbibes that. We've done a good job so far. We've got people in our team who've been with us for 10, 15 years together. We have a lot of people who've stayed with us, who've bought into the philosophy and understand the vibe that we are trying to portray.
Yeah.
It's ever evolving. I think it's a constant work in progress.
Hmm.
But yeah, you've got to walk the walk, I think.
and
Is that
and you must have to be at the top of your game, like always. So most of the big industries, they are built on standardization. But how do you standardize something in an industry like fashion? Like how do
As
you
unique
remain
as
in,
yeah.
yeah, how do you remain in fashion in an industry like fashion, where it is changing so rapidly? Like
Yeah.
something last week is not in fashion today.
Yeah, but
And
that's what's amazing about the work that we do, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Because it's ever evolving, because there's always something new to learn. We actually have our own training schools,
Yeah.
so we train our own teams, and we train lots of other hairdressers who go off and do other things, their own salons, work in different parts
Hmm.
of the country as
Hmm.
well. So education for us has been uh, the support or the backbone of our business, to be quite honest. And even that is ever evolving. As a young hairdresser starting off, I remember that it wasn't very official, the training back in the day when I was learning. And
Hmm.
over the
Right.
years, we formalized that. We've made it more logical. We've made it more. It's obviously technique based. There is, we always say, my brother and I, that you can actually teach a monkey to cut hair, but it's what that individual brings to the table then that makes them the stylist that they are.
Right.
Because
Right.
it's technique based, right? So
Yep.
it becomes, I think for us, it's been about passion. We are very
Hmm.
passionate about what we do.
Yeah, and it shows in your work, Aduna. Actually, like when I was researching before this podcast, and I got to know that you had done hairstyling for Dil Chahta Hai, I didn't have to look. I knew the hairstyles that were there in Dil Chahta Hai. You had done hairstyling for Lakshya. I knew the stuff that you had done. Like I didn't have to
It's
Google
been
what.
iconic. It's been
Yeah,
iconic.
exactly. It was defining for our generation.
Is that
Yeah.
haircut you're wearing part of your research?
Yeah, yeah. Akshay Khanna's haircut, but it was grew up in some time.
So, while we are on that lighter note, trying to wrap up at the lighter note itself, Aduna, you've been a part of the Hindi film industry for quite a long time. You've worked on a number of iconic looks, a number of iconic haircuts. Uh, have there ever been times when, say, you've tried a look on someone and it hasn't worked as well as you hoped it would to the audience? The actor or the actress has received, say, mixed responses towards the look. Have they ever come back to you? It is your fault that that I've been receiving these big bats. It's because of you. Has it ever happened?
Of course. Of
Oh, it
course.
has.
Of
Okay.
course. How do you learn if you don't make mistakes?
Hmm.
I mean, it's about, not only is it about the technique, as I said, of cutting hair, it is about personal relationships. It is about building a rapport with the person who's sitting in your chair. Whether that be an actor, whether that be, somebody who is a professional, whether that
Hmm.
be, Preeti, where I mean, it could be anybody.
Yeah.
It's if you don't hit that right note with a person, it can make or break what you do. And in a
Hmm.
nutshell, to just give you something funny, was in Lakshya, I had
Hmm.
worked for the first time ever with a wig, and
Hmm.
Okay.
the wig was made in the UK,
Hmm.
and we were working with it in India, and the
Hmm.
climate is very different in both countries. So
Yeah.
Right.
we were up in Ladakh, and although it was cold up there, a lot colder than sort of
Anywhere
London,
in the world.
where it had been made, and it was the first time I was also working with a wig.
Uh-huh.
So we fixed it. Preeti was fantastic. She gave me lots of time to prepare it. I mean, actually, the wig arrived from London on the day that we had to shoot with the wig. So I didn't get
Okay.
any time to prepare, apart from obviously coordinating how the
Yeah.
wig was going to be made and all
Hmm.
of that,
Hmm.
designing it for the character. But we put the wig on. We went out to shoot, and the scene was indoor, and it was a restaurant setting. So Preeti, the camera's on Preeti, the Preeti's facing the camera, and I positioned myself behind where the cameraman was. And
Right.
it was almost like in front of my eyes, this wig started to expand because of the, and it was awful. It was awful. Luckily,
Oh my
we
God.
managed to rectify it. But in that
Hmm.
moment,
Yeah.
I was crying. Preeti was crying. It was not very.
Yeah. I'm just thinking we are laughing at it
So
right now, but in the
we
moment it would have been a nightmare.
It was a nightmare because you've got, the whole crew ready and waiting to shoot.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then the hair's just becoming bigger. And the director's telling you, can we do something about that? You're just like,
This messes with my continuity a little.
yeah, so we have to
uh,
take a break and rework the wig.
it is what it is. Aduna, you've been an absolute pleasure to speak to, and once again, it shows really kindly of it is really kind of you to take time out and have this conversation with us. Your presence will definitely help the campaign, and it was
Very
a hoot having you. It was a hoot having you on the podcast.
Great
I hope you
having
had some fun time as well.
I did, Preeti. Really happy to help out wherever I can. It's a cause that's very important. I actually happy to help and in any way that I can. And just so you guys know, this is the book I'm currently reading. It is absolutely fabulous,
Okay.
hilarious, and a great read.
That is fabulous. Okay.